Hey, so a while back, I got the idea to attempt a gigantic painting. Gigantic as not in a mural, but as in like, something that's pretty big for me. As in like, I've never done this before, but I'm gonna step out of my comfort zone and try something new. And it was just a learning curve. It was an emotional roller coaster. It's like I think I made it in my mind to be more than it actually was, but at the same time it did last for a couple months, so I just really I documented some parts of it, and I really wanted to share some things that I learned along the way. And for people who, I don't know how many people this could reach, but essentially for anybody who's just down, like they're down, they don't feel like their art is valuable enough for them to continue drawing in a way, or just they measure themselves to others without being able to like look back on themselves and feel like, I can do something too. Like not comparing how good we are, but as just, I can do something too. And it's like, that's good. I can't explain this. I'll talk about this later, as in like, how you feel about art and yourself. But today I wanted to focus on this painting, of course. Where should I begin? So starting from getting the idea is just that I was looking at my desk, right? And it was really plain, because the desk sits like in front of a wall that's like bare. It's like the wall is bare, there's like nothing on it, right? So I was like, I need to decorate it. I want to step up, we have to do something. So I was like, you know what, let me paint something, just slap it on that wall, and then we're gonna call it a day. But obviously the wall was a bit big, and I was like, then we're gonna make a big painting. But then, you know what, that's just, me thinking about random things. But essentially, the painting started out as like a decoration idea. Then I came out to browsing a reference, and I think I was on Pinterest. I was just looking at photos. I was thinking that, and obviously we all love ghilbi movies, right? So ghilbi movies are all amazing. I was like, let me paint something ghilbi themed. So then I went on search, and I found this image of these castles, I guess, buildings, and I was like, this, out of all the other simple ideas, I'ma choose this. I was setting myself up for something. Okay, so then canvas. For my canvas, I had I didn't have much choices. I had like some pieces of wood lying around the house, and I was like, I'm gonna use that. I think I want to maybe add the fact that I did paint on wood prior to this project to like check out how it works. I also painted on like, how do you call those things? It's like, the white canvas that normal people uses, right? And I don't know, I just don't like that canvas, with the fabric and the wood pieces that this supports. Like, I just But the wood, that flat piece of wood though, that is cool. That is actually like, I preach that canvas. It's like, number one, even though maybe it curves a little bit like throughout the process, it's not the end of the world. It goes on the wall anyway, so it's like, yes. Now, moving on from that, how do I say this? Okay, so then I started by gessoing the project. Now here's the thing. This thing is gigantic. I used a roller to like roll a bunch of gesso on it, and this thing is not only gigantic but also dark. It's like a wood, it's not a light wood, and I still have a couple just layers of gesso on it, and I was like, it's still really dark. But then I was like, nevertheless, it's like not a big problem, because the thing with paint is that you just put layers and layers on it. So by the end, backslash, not like important, so I was like, I'm just jump into this sketch. I try to sketch with like, normal wooden pencil, from like, I was looking at the reference and I was sketching, and in a sense just transferring like that, like just doing it that way. And then I tried to like draw like a semi-grid, because I learned at an art class that drawing grids, transferring, it's like that's the method, but that is not the good method though. It's not. I wouldn't say I don't recommend it, but I don't. Alright, so this is how I was like, you know what, this is not working for me. My math is completely wrong. The lines are wonky as heck. I went on Excel. I I pulled my reference to the size of print, like the multiple print paper, printed those out and assembled them on puzzle pieces, put them on my piece of wood, discovered that I got the measurements wrong, went back, did the more adjustments, printed another batch, and that one worked out, just, you know, out of all the luck that I had, and glued the good pieces together as the puzzle. And then on the back side of the reference, the printed reference, I just stuck on a bunch of like graphite. Turn the paper over, trace what you need, and then you will have what you need on it, right? It's like, that's like a really cool thing. It worked so well, except that I didn't press hard enough when I was doing like the transfer, because I had to like trace the lines. I didn't do it hard enough. That was a bad point on me, but you know what, it still worked pretty well. So I did go back later, darken the lines that I did, because, you know, I just did too light, but essentially this transfer method, 10 out of 10. Alright, so then I started out with color blocking. I started by painting the trees because I was like way too scared to go into the buildings, because like obviously where the heck am I supposed to start with them? I have no clue, because there's so many little details, little windows, little arches, whatever, and they're just all over the place. And I was like, if I mess up, I mess up. Actually, you know, if you mess up and you mess up, it's not like a thing with painting, because you can always go back. Especially, now here's the thing about paint: if you make a mistake, you can go back and cover it up. But if you made that mistake like 2 days ago and you're trying to go back, but you don't have that right color of paint to cover that part up, you're screwed. Because if you're trying to go back and just remix the same color, it's like probably just 99% of a chance never going to be that close. That's just harsh truth. So, you know, painting is like fine in a way that you can make mistakes, but you don't want to like leave that mistake there and go back to it like way later when your paint's all gone and dry. So essentially I was afraid of just making a bunch of mistakes and just not noticing it. When I notice it, it's too late. So obviously I just started with the trees. I think I just went with like a green for like a color blocking, because trees are green. They are in the reference at the very least. Then I went into the first castle. I chose the one in the back. So there's 4 castles on this one. There's the big pink one, very noticeable. There's the green one that I call, and it's on the, I guess, on the right side. There is a little purple one, like in the center of all of them, and there's a pink one at the top. And I started with the pink one because it looked the most simplest. I didn't go with the purple one because that one was small, but it just looked really complicated. I did one last, and still really complicated. I was running from responsibilities. But the pink castle, I didn't film myself painting this first castle, because I was like, I'm gonna concentrate on this, and I am going to just try this out, just you know, just experience it all without a camera, just focusing on other stuff at the same time. I'm gonna focus here, concentration 120%. Let's go. The process, you know what, painting this first castle was actually not that bad. This castle was like probably the easiest one. I was really proud of it, and other people looked at it when I finished it, and it was just cute little pink thing, beautiful. After the pink castle, I went with the green castle. Now, the green castle is a whole little story. Okay, it's like it's a little thing. It's gigantic, and I started with this little part at the bottom, thinking that I could, because there's just too many shapes, too many colors. I was like, can I maybe narrow it down to like pixels? You know how some people could paint little blobs of color, so when you like zoom in, it's like just random blob of color. When you zoom out, it's like, oh, it's a, you know, a piece of cohesive kind of shapes and forms. I was like, can I go about that kind of logic? Do pixels and just, you know, color where it needs to be colored, and just maybe then later just step back, and it will just look, you know, decent. Now for this little small part, I just tried that method. I was trying with that mindset, and that did not work out for me. And I think that the blobs of color, this is a painting style, it's a method, it's something that it works, but for this castle, this thing that I was going for, that did not work out. So essentially, don't run away from responsibilities, because after, you know, trying and failing at this whole blob situation, the color, the I try to fix this part at the end. It just never turned out as great. But you know what? It's just a tiny little piece in the back. No, not in the back. It's like in the corner. It's not that big of a deal, especially that it's like it looks decent enough right now. Later on, now there's no other than the castle, there were also like other things involved in the painting, such as like cars, humans, clouds. I did put a lot of focus onto the castles though, because that was like the main thing about here. That's what I wanted to paint. I also debated if I wanted to keep the cars and the humans, because like I just want buildings, I don't want cars and people. But I also thought that one essence of ghilbi is their, you know, just their imaginative kind of technology, you know, the flying, you know, castles, not castles, like ships, and just all the fun stuff that I just, do they exist in real life? I'm not entirely sure, but I was like, if I wanted to add ghilbi essence, and especially because the red on this like front car is so vibrant and just goes so well with the whole thing, I was like, I need to add that. I'm gonna make an effort to do it. I am not gonna run away from the responsibility. So from there, it was a whole process of just painting one day, then just not doing it, and just going back to just reminding myself that I have this project going on, that I need to finish it, because my desk is still empty until one day it wasn't, and it doesn't go back to it. Because at some point, just going about this project, my desk just gained like a whole new setup on it, and the painting could not fit on it when I finished, which is really sad. But it has another place to live, and that's essentially, you know what, I painted it, so it's fine. One thing I think I learned from painting these sort of buildings, these sort of roofs, windows, just these shapes that are not necessarily human, because you know human shapes are really round, they're very soft, but buildings are not essentially, you can make it soft, but it's not soft. It's mostly rigid and square, cubic, and you want to capture that, right? So actually that I was really going for, I was not trying to step away from my reference. I think I want to maybe like add another parentheses here, that, so you know, some people think artists, you know, painting has to have so much meaning, that you're not copying somebody else's work. You need to give it intention. What are your meanings behind it? That's the whole thing about art class. The whole thing about just learning art is that they want to, like, you know, develop the artist's sense of intention. They want each and every art piece that the artist produces to have this meaning that they can describe later into very precise words. But the thing here is that I just want to have a beautiful castle of ghilbis on my wall, and I do not care about any other meaning. I just want to copy this reference, okay? As much as, you know, buying a similar thing from online, which could probably exist, or printing it out, because printers do better at copying than I do. You know, I think that painting is, especially with this painting, because it's not something that came out of my head. It's something that was already existent. I just transferred it onto a piece of wood. And I don't know. At the end of the day, I am super proud of this painting, and I definitely recommend everybody who's artists, who's just not confident enough in themselves, because, you know, they maybe see other people get commissions, they don't get any, or that they're just oh, they look at their art and it's all wonky when they like zoom out or something, and they think that they're not good enough for art class, that they would like to go to an institute to, like, you know, educate themselves on how to paint, how to sculpt, but they just don't think that they can do it because they weren't maybe born with talent, or they weren't, you know, educated early, like they didn't get into art earlier. It's like all of these people, they need to like make this one piece, like just one piece of any kind of art, but it's just a statement piece. Like they draw one big good thing about themselves, about anything that they like. Like I did this ghilbi painting, and at the end I just think that every time I think of myself and I think that I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't do anything that my other classmates are very good at, I just look back on this painting and I was like, damn right I can't paint. You see this thing right here, my name is on it, and I could sell this. I could put any price on this. This cost me 7 months, and this thing could buy me a house. That's what I think. Yeah, this literally, you know, there's maybe a difference, a limit between, you know, being like narcissistic and also just self-love. And on this level with art, I just think that if you have a statement piece of any kind that you could just always look back and be proud of, that is super important. I think that that's just something that is just yours and that you can just look back and be proud of. That's like something that I'm very happy that I did. Alright, we were talking about the pink castle, right? Alright, the pink castle, any castle, honestly. To do this, to like paint buildings, essentially, you need to sketch. That is something I learned. It's like you don't want to go about it with the really general shapes. You want to narrow all the lines down. I think what I did was that I went with a first coat of like the basic color, because you know I could name these the 4 castles by their color, right? Because they have like one thing that stand out about them, and for the pink one, it's just necessarily the pink. So I went ahead and give it a first coat of the pink, and maybe the purple, maybe like that big shadow there, just like get it in. But then you have to like really go back and sketch like all the things about like the windows and the lines and the sculptures. Essentially, you want to sketch that all in. You want to know where those things are and not just go about it blindly. And once you have those lined down, that's when you just know where you need to paint. Because sometimes I look at a painting or something and just look at a work and I'm like, where the heck am I supposed to go with this? What am I supposed to do? I don't know where to place things. What am I supposed to do? That's why you just need to know, you need to sketch a little more. Afterwards, I did go by and painted the cars, and the people, and what did I then just the last few steps of the painting are fresh, clear in my mind as I'm recording this, because I just did that a few days ago. The rest is just months ago, so I can't say everything. But how do I say this? So painting the people, the car, that wasn't like the hardest, but there was a lot of circles, of course. You have to like be really careful with it. But other than that, you know, the cars never and whatnot, and that gave me the biggest troubles. The floor, like the white part at the bottom, that was kind of weird, but that's not the biggest problem on earth, so you could just wishy-wash it a bit. Not the biggest deal. I did go also about painting the blue car with the people. I tried to not leave a single detail. I was like, at the end, I was like, I did not want to paint this couple that was just walking there just in the tiny little space, like nobody's gonna notice it. But I still told myself that I'm not gonna be lazy with this, that if I included, you know, part of it, I'm gonna include all of it. So I did go by and just did a whole thing. I also outlined the car, like the forefront, like the people in the front. I outlined them with this pen in black, because essentially that's how like ghilbi people are right there, outlined like very simply with that. Although I was like very nervous while I was outlining, I didn't even capture any of it. I was limit shaking, and the fact that the paint was just not, you know, flat surface and all, that just did not do well. Like the outline, could have lived without it, still needed to have it. So you know what, it's not the biggest deal, because the focus is it's the buildings, and the buildings didn't need the outline, so that's the fun part. I did also paint the cloud. Now the cloud in the sky, I did go by a layer of the sky that was a bit dark for the first one. Now for my choice to like a layer to paint this whole thing orange, like the canvas, I didn't not only gesso it, I also did an orange layer of it, because I've looked at some tutorials and people say that colors will show better when you're on a yellow or gray sort of, you know, canvas. That's you go about this kind of logic with digital art too, and I wanted to try that with this painting. Now for the blue though, that blue for the sky, that turned out way darker, so I had to go a second coat, but I would have to go with a second coat either way, so it's not the biggest deal. The sky was not the problem though. The problem with the clouds. Now the clouds were the biggest enemies, because clouds are supposed to be fluffy, right? So when you're fluffy, you don't want to like be really rigid with the line. So I really, you know, I needed for my paintbrush to be really free and fluid, but that was just not going well. If I had all this sort of obstacles that I needed to dodge because I didn't want to get white paint over it. So I tried to tape it, because I tried to tape up the parts that I didn't want to be touched by white paint. Covering the up, I probably like missed a few spots and just the white paint got all over the place. I was depressed, and then I tried to scratch it off with a bit of water. I ended up like scratching off parts of the paint I wanted to leave. So and I didn't have any of the paint that I could use, like the colors that I previously used on the buildings to cover up the mistakes. I was just in the shambles. I tried to like scratch some of the white part, cover with whatever pencil I can. One thing that I really preach about art supplies is that when you're painting, color pencils are like your best friend. You sketch with it, you can just do some minor shadows just to like see how it is, and then go back to it with the paint and just, you know, the color pencils just preach. All right, and I think I want to maybe conclude this. You know, this whole project took me like 7 months. Okay, I have the right to narrow down all the things I have to say, because I swear there's so much that went into this painting in a way that it's very emotional. I was feeling very much scared at that, you know, I'm gonna be wasting paint. I'm not good enough for this, that I will never finish this, that this is not something I just want to pursue on my free time, because I'm feeling so much anxiety from this. And there were also parts of it going about it. There were some days where I was like, I'm gonna finish this painting, and then 2 seconds later I was crying because it was taking so long. Every single brush stroke was so tiny. But now, you know, now coming out of it, you know, coming out of this depressing hole, everything is better, because now I got a big painting on another desk that is just there. My name is behind it. I've got the dates. I've got the title for it. Well, the title is just a title, but it's really rewarding to have this piece that is all my might. That is just all that I gave. It's not something that was born from my imagination, but it's something I poured my heart and soul on, and anybody who walks into a room, sees this painting, is gonna look at it and it's gonna be like, wow. It's not just a random little fridge drawing that you just stuck on there for a few years and it just crumbles and just turns yellow or something. This is a painting that not a lot of people can achieve. It's like not everybody can paint this, but I did, and I could just be proud of it, and I am. And therefore I'm making this video to really explain this journey of just, I can't really explain this too well, because I essentially forgot half of it, because the past isn't the past. But now I'm just really proud of it, and that's